officer-involved shooting that occurred early this morning here in the 7300 block of South Glen Street. As you can see behind me, I've got a large group of individuals that are all part of the ongoing investigation. As is typical in an officer-involved shooting, we've got members of the Austin Police Department Special Investigations Unit, the Internal Affairs Unit, and the Office of Police Monitor. We also have the District Attorney's Office, investigators here on scene investigating along with us as well, and the city's legal team and a few others. So this incident began early this morning. We received a call at 2:23 a.m. in the 7300 block of South Glen Street on a prowler. The caller reported that there was a suspect attempting to break into the house and then gave the name of who they believed that the suspect was. They went on a few minutes later and indicated that the suspect had in fact at that point entered the residence. At this point the line was disconnected, and we received another call a few minutes later at 2:26 a.m. from that same complainant, who at this time reported that she was now outside and she was actually moving in an attempt to get away from this suspect. She advised that she knows the suspect and that it is in fact her cousin, and that the suspect has a knife and is chasing her through this neighborhood, and that she and a few others were hiding because she felt like if the suspect found them that she would stab them. So this was the call that was initially dispatched and that our officers were initially reported, the information they initially received. The caller stayed on the line, and at 2:27, the officers again were dispatched and en route, and at 2:28 we got an update that it was unknown the exact location where the suspect was at that time. Again, 911 was still online with the complainant, and she was still giving updates on what was going on here in the neighborhood. The 911 operator indicated that she could actually hear the suspect chasing them as the complainant was making this call. The complainant stated that another friend was hiding on the other side of the street as well, and that there were 3 unknown males that were also trying to get away from the suspect here in this neighborhood, and it was unknown at that time where the male subjects were. The dispatch asked if there was any indication or any reason why the suspect was chasing them, asked the caller that, and the caller did report that the suspect was chasing them because she was believed to be intoxicated, and this was related to some type of a disturbance or something that had happened in the past. The complainant says that she could then hear the males in the neighborhood, but again, she did not know where they were. The complainant advised 911 that she would be looking for the officers and that she would in fact flash a light in the officers' direction when they arrived to let them know where she was. The complainant then gave an address of Autumn Bay and Aspen Glen, letting them dispatch know that's the intersection they were at that time, again awaiting our officers' arrival. At 2:33, the complainant advised that all 3 females had in fact been physically assaulted by the suspect, indicating there had been bites and scratches and other types of assault wounds, and that this happened when they tried to contain the suspect. The complainant saw the first APD officers at 2:34, and then that's when contact was established with the APD officers. Our officers spoke with the complainant for several minutes, and in ascertaining what had happened, they were advised that there was another female back inside the residence, and the suspect had in fact returned to the residence as well. So the officers went back to the residence where the initial call took place, and to do a welfare check on the female that was believed to be inside that residence. This occurred at 2:39 a.m. The officers headed back to the residence, and at this point, when the officers go to the residence, this part is all captured on the officer's body camera. They go to the door, they're finally able to get an answer at the door, and they do get one female to come out, who I do believe is the person they were looking for initially. And at this point, the officers enter the residence. Again, they had gone there to do a check welfare on this female. As the officers enter the residence, they are identifying themselves. They're speaking to the suspect. At this point, they've been given a name, calling her by name, telling them this is the Austin Police Department, and as they work their way through what appears to be the family room, and they're getting to what appears to be the kitchen, the suspect comes around the corner, and the officers immediately give a command, what sounds like drop the knife, and immediately you can see they're backing up on their body cameras, giving the command to drop the knife. She continues to walk in their direction, and at that point one officer fired his weapon, and the suspect at that point does go down on the ground, and the officers continue to give commands to drop the knife is what can be heard, and then ultimately they move in and begin to try and perform life-saving measures at that time once they've been able to clear her from what does appear to be a knife on the video. Those efforts were unsuccessful, and the suspect was pronounced deceased here on the scene. Although she has not been positively identified, we do believe her to be a Hispanic female, 18 years of age, based on information that we've been provided by witnesses, and again, believing that she may be related in some way or another to this house and to people that were inside this house. The officer involved in this incident has been with the Austin Police Department for 2 years, and as is our standard practice, he will be placed on an administrative status while this investigation is underway. And again, that's an investigation that will be conducted not only by the police department with our internal affairs and special investigations unit, but also the district attorney's civil rights unit as well. So this is going to be an active scene throughout the day. But I want to take a moment to address what appears to be the loss of a very young life in our community today. Again, we don't know what led up to the incident that occurred here. She was described as being intoxicated. We believe that she assaulted some of the individuals that were in the home based on what we know right now and what's evident on the body camera. She does appear to be in possession of a knife, and the officers again gave her direction to drop that, but instead she continued in their direction. But at the end of the day, this appears to be an 18-year-old female who lost her life today, and that is a tragic incident for this community, and it is a tragic incident for our department. This is not a situation that any officer wants to find themselves in, I've spoken to the officer very briefly, and I can tell that he is greatly impacted by what happened here today. So that's what we know right now. There's not a lot more detail. It's an active and ongoing investigation. I will open it up for questions, but again, given that this is all preliminary at this point, there's not a lot of additional we can put out at this time.
Chief, how was the the female they went to check on inside of the home? Were they hurt at all?
The female that we actually went down there to do that initial check welfare does not appear to have been injured.
Were all the people involved here teenagers? Were there adults inside the house?
I'm not aware of the ages of the individuals involved. I know we have several witnesses that we're interviewing at this time back at police headquarters.
And there were 4 females that were essentially the victims of the suspect who was trying to attack them. So there's 4.
Again, all of the witnesses are back at headquarters. From what I've ascertained from our communications tapes and the CAD report, it appears as though there were 3 that were being chased through the neighborhood, and then there was a 4th that was in the residence that the officers went back to do a check welfare on.
And the suspect was related just to the woman inside the residence?
That we don't know. Again, we've not positively identified the suspect at this point, but who we believe she is, we believe she will be related to one of them by what they told the 911 dispatcher, that this was their cousin.
And from the time that you guys got the call and the time that you guys arrived, you said that the suspect was able to bite and scratch the other women?
What was reported by the caller, who again stayed on the line with our 911 dispatcher awaiting the officer's arrival, was that they had been assaulted by the suspect, and they described it as biting and scratching and things of that sort.
What kind of knife was it?
That's part of the ongoing investigation. Again, I've watched the video on a really small screen, so I would not want to give you a description. I do also know that when the officers first arrived, they found a second knife actually out here on the street, and then the suspect was in possession of the knife when the officers entered.
Have you been called to this home before? Were you familiar with these people at all in any way?
At this stage of the investigation, I'm not aware whether there's history at this house or not.
Some neighbors were saying that yesterday there were 2 people wandering around in the neighborhood trying to commit a robbery, and they had to be chased out. Do you know if that's related to this at all?
I have no idea about that call yesterday or if there's any relation to this.
Last question.
So it was, I guess, 11 minutes from the time they called to when officers got here. Is that a normal response time, or why did it take 11 minutes?
Yeah, I'd have to look at what the timeline on that, but again, this was a priority call for us, so the officers that were closest responded in an emergency capacity. I don't have the exact, I know I gave timestamps, I don't know what that exact response time was, but officers were dispatched as quickly as available given the priority of this call, and I don't know where they were coming from as far as their previous call.
Was only one shot fired?
We will not go into the number of shots that were fired. That's part of the ongoing investigation. Thank you.